Hi guys, how we doing? Oh, I went from here to here. It's always interesting to see what's going to come out of my mouth when I hit that play button, you know? So, how is everybody? I see one little set of peepers coming in. Oh, 3. That number tends to climb really, really quickly. So how is everybody? Guys, I need to know if I need to wiggle. Let me know. Wiggle, wiggle. You got it.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, let me know if that's better. Just give me a thumbs up if that's better. I am, guys, eventually getting that fixed. It is just one of the things on my list. So luckily there's a place really close by here where I can take it and have it fixed, which is nice. You love my shirt? Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't sure what to put on today. Just kind of reached in and grabbed for something. I always wear solid colors, so I'm sure it's pretty different to see me in something with a pattern. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Sue. Hi, Kathy. Oh, so good to see everybody. Oh, my goodness, you guys. Yesterday, I spent the better part of the afternoon and evening packing up all of the bead orders that you guys, whoa. I have little bead grab bags, and you guys bought them up like in the blink of an eye. So I have 22 orders that I have to take to the post office as soon as I'm done here. That's a lot. That's a lot. It took me a long time to package all that up. I did finally, at the end, I was like, okay, I cannot handwrite these labels anymore. So I broke down and ordered printable labels, which I probably should have done in the first place. But I mean, you know, I'm one of those people. I'm like, oh, it's cheaper if I do it myself. No, it might be cheaper, but it definitely gave me a blister on my finger. So totally wasn't worth it. Hi, Kim says she's new here. Everybody say hi to Kim. Hi, Kim. Welcome. So, yeah, we can still wiggle. Even when it's fixed, we can still wiggle. You guys are so funny. So, a couple of things that I want to touch on before we get started with today's project, which is a beautiful one, might I add. I really love this necklace. So let's talk first and foremost about the email that went out to everybody. So for those of you who have signed up for my mailing list, first and foremost, I would like to thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And those of you who have not signed up for the email list yet, there is a link for that in the community group. So be sure that you are part of the Sara Ellis Designs community Facebook group. Also, if you've not done that, sign up for that, but there is also a link on the Sara Ellis Designs Facebook page. You do kind of have to scroll through to find it, but it is there. All of that information is there. I'm going to try this week, fingers crossed, because it's a busy week, but I'm going to try to kind of reorganize the business page a little bit so the information, things like that, are a little bit easier to find. So just bear with me on that. The second thing about the emails is it's been about 50-50 with you guys. Some of you have had absolutely no problem downloading the free project. Others of you have had trouble downloading the project, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. First and foremost, MailChimp is brand new to me, so that's the program that I use for the mailing list. I'm learning as I go with it, and I followed all the steps. I'm not really sure why it is that some people are having problems and some people aren't. But that being said, if you have problems, please send me an email. Just reply to the welcome email and say, I am unable to download the project, and I will send it to you as a separate attachment. And for those of you who have emailed me this morning, yes, I see your emails. There's a handful of them in my inbox, and you guys have asked for me to send you the project. I will, I promise. I got to do Facebook Live first. I got to run over to the post office. Then I have a quick phone call with Beadalon, and then I promise by the end of the day, this evening at the latest, you guys will all have your free project. I'm so sorry about that. I don't really know why it's happening, but I will keep it in mind the next time I decide to attach something to the emails that go out in the email blasts. So my apologies, but definitely it's fixable. So just hang in there. You will get your project, I promise. I won't let you down. Will not let you down. Okay, so Kathy says, wondering if it's an iOS or a Droid issue. I'm not sure because a lot of people are trying to download it on their computer. So I was thinking maybe it was a Word, because it's a Word document. I was thinking maybe it was a Word issue, but I'm not real sure. I don't know. Sometimes things like that kind of get lost in translation from like a program to when it actually ends up in your inbox. I'm not sure. I'm just not computer illiterate enough to, I'm not computer literate, I am computer illiterate. That's probably the way I should say it. Computer stuff kind of goes over my head. So again, thank you for your patience with that, you guys. I will get you your projects, I promise. Okay, so let's see. What else do I need to hit on? Oh, I have a topic. So before we get started, I thought that I had a conversation with my friend Ruth. Hi, Ruth. I had a conversation with Ruth yesterday. Was it yesterday? I believe that it was. If it wasn't, it had to be yesterday. I keep thinking today's Wednesday. It's not. And it was a good conversation that I thought, you know what, this is information that a lot of you may like to know, okay? So this is actually a question that I've got asked a couple of different times. Probably one of the, Ruth says, yep, it was yesterday. So one of probably the top 2 questions that I get asked the most when it comes to making jewelry and selling your jewelry or selling your services, right, which is totally different, is how much should I charge? So I know we don't talk a whole lot about business stuff here, but I think maybe we should hit on a few topics because I know that that's information that is important, and there's not a whole lot of really good resources out there online, and the resources that there are very mixed in information. So I'm going to try my best to help you guys out the best way that I can. And in fact, if you have questions about this as well, please feel free to send them to me. And now you guys can email me directly. You don't even have to go through Facebook. For those of you who have signed up for the email list, you can email me directly through that, which is fantastic. So your messages will definitely get seen. So here's what Ruth's question was. So Ruth is someone has hired Ruth to restring some things for them, and so it's a stringing job, right? And she wanted to know how much she should charge for that. And I kind of put restringing in the, I put that in the same category as I do for things like being an instructor. So like if you're going to teach local classes. So anything that is not, where you're actually selling a piece of jewelry, but you are still selling your services. Like there's kind of a split down the middle in the jewelry industry. So there's like your services and then there's like your finished products, right? So I categorize those in 2 different ways. A lot of people ask me, how do I price my products when I want to sell them? That's a different conversation for a whole different day. Okay. We will touch on that because I know that's a huge, huge question, but let's talk about services first, because it is relevant at the moment because someone had a question. So she asked how she should charge for restringing. And the first thing she wanted to know, of course, was how much do I charge per inch? Because a lot of times when it comes to restringing, whether you're doing it for finished pieces or whether you are doing it for bead stores where they have the hanks of beads that are hanging on the wall, that sort of restringing, it all kind of classifies as the same. So if you are going to do such a thing, most people charge by the inch, and most people charge, the window there is between $2 and about $6. So wherever you feel comfortable in there, that's where you want to pick your mark for by the inch. The second thing you want to add to that is your time. And I feel like a lot of you, and I was really hard with this as well when I very first started selling things and selling services in particular, was my time, right? My time is just as valuable as the person who has asked the service of me, right? So number one, always go when you're having those kinds of conversations with someone who has asked for your services, don't ever put yourself in a position where they're above you because they're the ones paying and you're below, okay? That's never the way you want to enter those types of situations. You always want to enter that type of situation where you're coming at them as equal. I need something from you. I have what you need. That doesn't put anybody higher or lower, right? You're coming together to solve a problem. So when you look at it that way and you don't feel like the help, you're more inclined to charge people what you are worth, right? But if you put yourself below them because they're the ones that are holding the dollar sign, then you feel more likely to be like, oh, I hate to ask for this much money, or should I ask for this much money? Don't do that, okay? And the reason why you shouldn't do that, other than the fact that we are all enough and we are all equal, is you have to remind yourself that not everybody can do what you do. And that's one that's really hard to like kind of wrap your brain around, because for me, I've been making jewelry forever and I take for granted that other people don't do it. Other people can't do it as easily as I do. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, can you make something for me? Will you do this? It's really hard for me to charge them what it's worth on my end and realize that they're asking me because they can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like a plumber, he plumbs. We pay plumbers a lot of money because we can't do what they do. It's the same thing. You fall into the same kind of category, okay? So always, always, always charge for your own time. Don't put yourself below the person who you are negotiating with, okay? It's a partnership, a negotiation. It's not you're the hired hand or the help. Don't ever put yourself in that category, because what you do is important. If it wasn't important to the person, they wouldn't be offering to pay you for it, okay? So that being said, your time is equally as important as their time. So please, if you are going to restring a necklace, you're going to make something, even with finished pieces, charge for your time, because your time is just as valuable as theirs is. So if I'm charging $3 an inch for something, but it takes me 3 hours to do it because it's several feet long, I'm talking like hanks, right, of beads. Don't feel bad about asking for your time, right? Charging for your time. Pick an hourly rate, something that you are comfortable with, and tell them straight up, this is what my hourly rate is, and this is what I charge by the inch. Don't make apologies for that. Don't say, I'm sorry. Don't be shy and timid about it. Lay it out like facts. Because if they knew somebody else, they can ask somebody else, right? If they know somebody who can do it cheaper, they'll go to somebody who can do it cheaper. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes, because they don't know what you do. They don't know how long it's going to take you to do it. So when you give them the information that they need, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay. So I just want you guys to know that that's where your head needs to be when you are negotiating. Okay. Don't put yourself below the other person. Charge what you're worth. Figure out an hourly rate and then tack on to that. Okay, that's super, super important information to have. Stuff that I wish somebody had told me a long time ago, because it would have saved me a whole lot of trouble. And money is one of those things that people have a really hard time talking about, particularly here in the South. We were raised that you just don't talk about money. But that can become really difficult when you are trying to do business, right? You have no choice but to talk about money. So my advice is to be upfront about that, be upfront about the money. And when you're considering what your hourly rate is, you got to take in more than just your time into consideration. You got to take in your time. If you're using your own materials, you got to take in, some of that. You also have to take in your overhead, depending on where you are. Like when I do my taxes, I take out, even though I work from home, I take a percentage of, the electricity that runs this room. And there's a lot of electricity coming into this room. There are so many things plugged in. And your tools, which you've probably paid for your tools 10 times over by now, but tools are not indestructible, right? Sometimes they have to be replaced. Those are not things you want to charge majorly for, but you do want to kind of pencil those in as you are kind of coming up with what your hourly rate is going to be for something, you know? Say, okay, 20 cents for this or 25 cents for that or whatever at your hourly rate, added to what you are going to charge just for you to show up and be there, right? Because you are important. What you do is important. And if they want to find someone cheaper, they totally can. And you just move on to the next customer, right? Don't bend your rules just because you don't feel confident enough to say, this is what I'm worth, right? You've got to stand up for what you're worth. Trust me. Stand up for what you're worth. I can't even say that enough. Okay, well, that just took a turn. Okay, yes, Cindy says, if you value your time, others will value your time. Yes, 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 yes. And that is so, like, I could go on and on about this forever, but to me, it's like people who are perpetually late. And I know there are some people that are just perpetually late, and it's not, they don't do it intentionally, but somewhere along the line, they have this mindset that their time is more valuable than the other person's time set, or, you know, their time. So, like, for instance, not to dog the husband, but he is perpetually late to appointments. He is always late to the dentist. He's always late to the doctor's office. He's always late to wherever he's supposed to go. And I'm like, look, you don't understand. Your time and the doctor's time are equal in value. When you are perpetually late for things, you are telling the doctor that you're more important than the doctor is. Do you see how that works? So, like, I've always tried to teach my kids that. I know, I that totally got off topic, but it's just one of those little kind of pet peeves that bugs me because it's a very kind of narcissistic attitude to kind of have. Like, your time is no more important than anybody else's, so don't let anybody treat you that way either, is what I'm trying to get at. That's how that all ties together. So there you go. Okay, so I got that information out there for you. I saw a question that went by that said, will these videos be able to watch because somebody had to go somewhere? Yes, you can rewatch these over and over again on the Facebook page, and they also get uploaded over to my YouTube channel as well. So if you have an opportunity to subscribe to the YouTube channel, please do so. I would greatly appreciate that. And it's a great way to stay up to date with things. I've had a lot of people tell me that it's easier to watch replays on YouTube for whatever reason. I think it's just the format. So yeah. Let's see. I have 2 more things and then we're going to get to the project. Actually 3 more things. The first thing is that tomorrow is the first one of my Michaels classes. So if you're interested in taking a virtual class with me over on the Michaels website, please head on over there and sign up for the class. It's completely free. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow we're actually going to be doing a ring on the jewel loom. And then let's see. Candy Cooper wanted me to pass along information to you guys who were putting together bracelets with me on Friday that the prong pusher tools that I use to put the bracelets to set all of the stones in the bracelets, she is restocking those as fast as she possibly can. So just keep checking back. If they're not there, they will be. She promises. She wants you guys to know that you absolutely just need to keep checking back because she's got them. She's going to relist them as often as she can. And the bracelets too. So definitely keep that in mind. And then the very last thing that I wanted to tell you, which now I have completely forgotten what it was. Hold on, let me think. It was the first thing I was going to tell you, and now I've completely forgotten what it was. Oh well, I don't know. It'll come to me. I had 3, and now I've completely lost one of them. Who knows? It'll come to me when we put this project together. All right, so let's talk about today's project. I don't know. Brain fart. I don't know what happened. Today's project is a really pretty one. It's not a hard one, but it's a fun one. And we are going to use the tying station for just a little bit of it, not a lot of it. If you don't have a tying station, number 1, I recommend you getting one. Number 2, you can do this with some painter's tape and just on your work surface. If you want. Okay, so you don't have to have the tying station, but I highly recommend getting it. I will think of it. Eventually it'll come to me. It may be at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, oh, that's what it was. But eventually it will come to me. All right, so let's get down to business and let's put this project together, shall we?
All right, hold on.
I'm going to do a wiggle wiggle. I know I don't have my sticky notes today. I normally have sticky notes for everything. And for whatever reason, I've gone sticky noteless today. Okay. I remember what it was. It was Joan. Joan said something about her and Mr. Joan, which I think is absolutely hysterical. What I wanted to say was I just wanted to give a shout out to Mrs. Joan and to Kathleen, our two moderators on the Sara Ellis Designs group. They both work so hard, you guys, and I appreciate them so much. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to them. I can't believe I forgot that, but when I saw her name go by, I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. So thank you, Joan and Kathleen. All right, so this is going to be the main part of our necklace. It's not really the main part, but this is the big drop for our necklace. This is a Baroque Pearl, and I actually got this from Michael's, and it came on a little card. Let's see. I think there were five on a, 5 on a strand, and that's just because these are a little bit bigger than your regular sized freshwater pearls. Okay, so these are a little bit heftier, they're a little bit chunkier, and you can get them in this this regular kind of cream color, but then they have them in that blacky purple kind of color as well, which also makes really pretty drop for this necklace. So we just need one of these. If you don't have one of these in your stash, definitely grab them from Michael's. They've got a sign up for their email because they've got a lot of sales that happen pretty frequently on their beads that are strung. And then our other beads for this project are these little Chinese crystals, and they are 4mm crystals. I do not know where these came from. I have this sneaking suspicion that I bought these either when I was at Bead Fest or when I was in Tucson. Just at those big tents where you can get the Chinese crystals for like $2, and I'm pretty sure that's where these came from. But any kind of little 4mm bead is going to work for this. You just want to be sure that your bead in comparison to your pearl is a bit smaller, because otherwise the pearl kind of gets lost in the design. So I've got 66 of these, and just going to put them over here on my bead mat. The other things that we're going to need for this are some bead stringing wire. You're going to need some crimps, and I'm also using some of the Beadalon Faux Suede lace. That's going to be the length portion of this. This is going to be an over the head necklace, so there's not a clasp for this. If you don't like that, you absolutely can add a clasp to it though, really easily. It's not very hard at all to cut this piece of faux suede in half and get what you need. I've got 2 of these TierraCast hammered rings. I believe it's a 12.5mm size, but any kind of little link, if you've got some chunky chain that you can take a link out of, definitely use that. Or you can get these from TierraCast. I love TierraCast. The quality is really, really good. You're also going to need 1 of these little rhinestone beads. And again, you can get a whole strand of these from Michael's for really inexpensively. So 1 of these little guys, you're going to need a head pin for our pearl. And then you're going to need some size 15 seed beads, which is really tiny. I know it's so small, and I know that Kathleen, if she were here, she's not here today, she would definitely be calling these evil seed beads because they are so small. But the reason that I picked the small ones is because we're working with such small beads anyway, that if you go up to, a size 6 or a size 8 in the seed beads, it really takes away and distracts from the crystals and the pearls. So try to keep it small when it comes to your seed beads. You don't have to go as small as 15s if you don't want to, but I definitely like to keep it teeny beany. Okay, I'm using some Beadalon 49 strand bead stringing wire, and I'm using the bright color. You're really not going to see much of this, but if for some reason you do happen to catch a little sneak peek of it in the design, it matches really beautifully with everything that we've got going on. All right, last but not least is the suede lace that I was talking about, which I get the faux suede lace from Beadalon. So this is, you know, it's vegan, if you will. And it is about 2.5 millimeters wide. I'm also using some B-Lon, and that is this stuff right here. Beadalon has it in a 3-pack, so you can get your neutral colors. This one comes with gray, black, and a tan, I believe. I can't remember what else comes in the pack, but you get 2 other colors with it. This stuff is, I use it for so many things. We're actually going to use it to hold our 2 ends of our suede lace together with just some square knots. Okay, so that's just kind of showing you where we're going. So let's get started. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way here. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this pearl on a head pin, and we're just going to go ahead. Uh-oh, looks like that's a tight squeeze there. That's the one thing about pearls, is sometimes you need to use your bead reamer to ream out the hole on them. So a lot of times pearls have a very, very small hole. So I'm just using my pliers to kind of help put that head pin through there. All right, so we are just going to come in and we are going to just create a wrapped loop. If you prefer a simple loop, go for it. But when I do really long necklaces, this is kind of a long style necklace. A lot of times I do a wrapped loop instead, just because I don't trust the simple loops when my necklace kind of comes down in a spot where maybe it's going to hit up against the table or come in contact with things, because that's when, like, if you stand up too quickly, you could pull your pearl off. So I definitely would recommend a wrapped loop here. But again, it's up to you, and it's really going to kind of depend on the length of the necklace. So we've made our bend with our chain nose pliers. We're coming in with our round nose pliers, and I'm just going to hold those pliers still. I'm going to move the wire, not the tool. I take that wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Let me adjust the lights just a little bit, you guys. Okay. Now you can see where the placement of everything is, right? This bottom barrel of the round nose pliers is in the way, so I need to move it so that I can get the wire over to the other side to close up our loop. So all I'm going to do is just that, right? I just rock the pliers, just kind of roll them, and I didn't take the wire off to do that. Okay, now I've got room to take that wire over to the other side to close up our loop. There's a space between our loop and the top of the bead, and that's where we are going to wire wrap. So I've got enough room for about 3 good wire wraps, and then I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and trim that off. Hi Motorcrafts, how are ya? Hi to everybody that I didn't get a chance to say hey to today and welcome in. I'm so glad to see all of you every time we are together. I would be so sad without you guys. All right, so we've got this guy. That's the only wire wrapping that we're doing for the entire project, just that one little wrapped loop on our beautiful pearl. So I'm going to sit this pearl over here to the side, and we're going to go ahead and grab our bead stringing wire. And as my usual kind of designing technique, I'm going to start in the middle and build out from there. So I've taken the 2 ends of my bead stringing wire and brought them together so that I can find kind of the middle of the bead stringing wire. And I'm going to thread on some of these teeny beany little seed beads here and drop those down to the bottom. And I don't even know how many we need. It's not a lot though. And I'm also going to cut the end of my bead stringing wire at an angle, just so that it really kind of, and it's very slight, right? That little angle is going to help thread on these tiny little seed beads because they are so small. So what I want is, I just want enough of these so that I've got a little bit of a loop. I don't want a big, huge loop because I don't want to take, I don't want this to really be a focal, right? I want the pearl to be the focal. The pearl's going to hang over the top of these little tiny seed beads. So the seed beads are only really acting as a protective barrier between the metal wrapped loop and the bead stringing wire. So it's not going to take a lot. Just kind of drop those down, and then you can kind of pull everything together to see. Looks like we need maybe three more seed beads, maybe 4. Let's see. So guys, the seed beads that I'm using, I listed them as 15s in the materials list. The truth is that these are actually 13s, which is a really odd shape of seed bead. And they are charlottes, so they are actually faceted, which is also like, I don't know, it kind of blows my mind because there's, to be so tiny, to have that facet on them is just, I don't know. I'm amazed that there is something or someone that can facet a bead that is that tiny. All right, so we have a little horseshoe shape. That's exactly what we need. You want to make sure that it stays down in the center of your bead stringing wire. We're going to go ahead and thread our pearl on and drop it down into that little, yeah, you can use 15s. That's what I was saying. Like, I listed it as 15s in the materials list because that's what most people have. I don't know where these 13s that I got even came from. So yeah, you wonder how they make them. I do wonder how they make them, especially like the charlottes. And they're not faceted all the way around. Charlottes just have like 1 or 2 sides that have that like flat edge to them that makes them sparkle just slightly. And I'm like, how? It's so tiny. How do you do that? Okay, so we've got our little group of our beads here. And you can see I'm not making a big loop, just a tiny, tiny little loop because I don't want to distract from this beautiful pearl. And I'm going to thread on a crimp bead, and I'm actually using beads instead of tubes today, which is weird for me. But part of the reason is because they're smaller, right? A crimp bead is just smaller than a crimp tube, even though I prefer the tubes. But for this project, I want all of that kind of hardware to disappear. So I thread the crimp bead onto both ends of my bead stringing wire. I'm going to bring it down. That's what's going to kind of close up our loop here. So we're going to go ahead and crimp that with our crimper tool. But we have to be really, really careful because you don't want to accidentally hit your seed beads with your crimper tool because it'll bust them. So make sure that your bead stringing wire is separated inside that crimp bead. Okay, I'm actually going to switch hands here. Hold this with my left. Okay, making sure that those wires are not crisscrossing inside that crimp. And then I'm going to come in with my crimper tool, place that crimp bead in the back notch of the crimper tool. That's the one that's closest to my hand. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a squeeze. Okay. Now I'm going to take that and put it into the front notch of the crimper tool sideways and give it a squeeze. And we've just got a tiny little crimp there. And you can see how that crimp really just disappears with the rest of those seed beads. It's very unobtrusive. A Keebler elf's job. It's got to be, right? It has to be. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to take my rhinestone bead and I want to thread it onto both strands as well. Okay, so that's just going to kind of sit down on top of that crimp, and really it's just another way to really hide that crimp, right? It's not over the top of it, but you definitely don't notice it at all. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to use these little seed beads again, because these are going to be kind of, we've talked about this before, and I don't really know exactly how it is that I explained it, but 3 or 4 of the little seed beads exiting, right, your rhinestone beads, so 3 or 4 on this side and 3 or 4 on this side, is going to give you just enough room so that when you start to thread on your crystals, they're not crowding each other out, okay? So on one of the strands, I'm going to thread on, like, I don't know, maybe of these tiny little seed beads. So there's 4 on one strand, and I'm going to put 4 on the other strand. Okay. So now drop those down. That gives me just a little bit of a buffer so that now those 2 crystals are not going to be like fighting for space over. Okay, sorry. I don't know what happened. You guys froze for a second. Okay, so you can see that it just kind of helps so that those 2 beads can sit side by side without pushing each other out. I know we froze. I don't know what's happening. That's not a good sign. Okay, so again, I've got 66 of the crystals, so we're going to do 33 on either side. I'll try to thread these on as quickly as I can so that it doesn't take forever. But we've got 1, 3, 4, 5. So at this point we're just stringing. There's no real pattern. Okay, just going to thread these on. So there's 5. All right, we've got 10. Okay, that's just on one side now. Remember, got to do both sides, but Kathy says, how are you doing that with your hand? I don't know. It's, for me, it's easier than like struggling here to pick them up one at a time with the end of the wire. It just, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's like, I have to pick the faster of the 2. All right, there's 30. We need 3 more. And then we will string up the other side. That didn't go, it didn't take too long. I hate to just like be doing something and just leave dead space. I have this weird need to like fill up the silence with my voice. So, it bothers me when we do something like this where like there's dead silence. There's nothing really for me to say. I just have to remind myself, you guys are watching and it's okay. I don't have to talk the entire time. Okay, there's 10. We're getting there. Now, even though I have these laid out, I'm still counting them because I just don't trust my own math. Oops. All right, so here's 20. We're getting there. We've got just a few more to go. Oops. All right, there's 30. We've got 3 left. Okay. All right, so here is the necklace so far. We have all of our beads. We've got our drop down here at the bottom. I've got 33 beads on either side of this. You could shorten this up if you wanted to. I wanted these sections to be kind of long though, because the leather or the faux suede lace that we're using is a little bit longer as well. So I really wanted it to kind of be as even as possible so that the leather wasn't like the main, you know, the main part of the necklace. I really like this sparkle here. And guys, just so you know, I don't know how you are about keeping up with the trend forecasts and things like that, but it's kind of my business to do that. So, you know, when they release what's going to be popular for spring and summer of this year, they actually release it last fall. So it's been like the trend forecast and all of the fashion shows that happen, they happen a good 2 seasons, not 2 seasons. That was not what I meant to say. A few weeks, several weeks, if you will, beforehand. So all of the trends for spring and summer came out this past fall. And what is going to be really, really hot for spring and summer, if you like to keep your designs and your styles on trend, pearls. Pearls are going to be huge. Pearls, and it doesn't matter if they're glass pearls, it doesn't matter if they are freshwater pearls, doesn't matter if they're irregular shaped or perfectly round. Pearls are going to be everywhere spring and summer, and pearls mixed with other things. Pearls mixed with really bright pops of color. Pearls mixed with polymer clay beads, with check glass beads in bright colors. That's really, really hot. And the alternative to that for more like nighttime wear or after dark would be, instead of bright pops of color, to be with sparkle and shimmer and shine. So crystals like we have here. That is going to be on, or it was on all of the runways for the new spring and summer lines. Also, lots of chain, lots and lots of chain by itself, chain with pearls, decorative locks and carabiners. All of that is really, really hot for the season coming up. I always want to try to give you guys like the style forecast, because I have to know those things for the industry. I kind of have to keep up with that kind of stuff. And it's good information, because even if it's not styles that you love, your customers probably will, and they'll probably be looking for them. So I like to look at like the very high-end pieces and see how I can translate those into my own like more affordable, ready-to-wear kind of designs. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to kind of finish off our necklace. We've got a little bit, we still have a ways to go, but I want to show you how it is that I've done this. So I have taken our faux suede lace, oh my gosh, faux suede lace. I've got about 30 to 36 inches of this, so it's nice and long. You can shorten that up however you want to. And I folded it over our link here that we're using, and then I did some square knots, and that's how the 2 ends are connected. A little bit of Hypo Cement on the glue on the back, but that's how we're going to finish this off. I did one of them ahead of time just because it's going to save us some time, but we are going to use some more of those little seed beads to loop around. So what we're going to do is, let me dump out my little tiny seed beads here. I feel like I'm going to need some more of these, so let me cut them off of the strand that I have here. Try not to make a huge seed bead, tiny seed bead mess. Could you imagine? It's one thing to lose your seed beads all over the place. It's another thing when they're like microscopic. That is never a fun time to clean them up. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to thread on a crimp bead onto one end of the bead stringing wire, okay? And now I'm going to thread on about 21 or 22 of these little seed beads. There's 10. Okay, so I've got about 21 of those. Okay. Hi, Barbara. I love it. And the live wires. I love it. All right, now I'm going to take the end, that same end of the bead string wire. I'm going to thread it through our link here, and then I'm going to take the end of that and thread it through that crimp bead. So make sure that you don't forget to thread the crimp bead on there, guys, okay? And then I'm going to take the tail end of that and go through like 2 beads, just so that I can kind of give myself a little bit extra room when I'm pulling everything down, instead of like having to work up against those tiny little beads. Hold on. And my bead stringing wire, of course, is way longer than what I need. The live wires. I love it so much, you guys. I love it. Okay, so now, sorry, I know my hands are in the way. I'm going to pull all of this down, okay? And when I pull all this down, it's going to make a little beaded loop around our hammered component, okay? And now I just need to come in with my crimper tool and very carefully crimp. Now, part of the reason that I took that bead stringing wire through 2 beads is because look at the space here. I barely have any room to get the crimper tool in there, and I'm guaranteed to at least pop one of these seed beads. And I hate that that happens, but it's just part of it. So always thread on, particularly if you're using these really tiny seed beads, be sure to thread on at least 1 or 2 extra, just knowing in advance that you're going to have a really hard time getting your crimper tool in there without cracking a seed bead. I mean, I just consider it collateral damage. Okay. I try not to, but it's going to happen. So I put the crimp down. Oh, I didn't hit any. That was a miracle. I crimped first, and then I'm going to put it in the front notch and give it a good squeeze. I'm amazed. I didn't bust any of the crimp beads. Wow. I fully expected that I would. All right, now I'm just going to trim off the tail of the bead stringing wire. Okay. And this end is ready for the unfinished end of our suede lace. We're going to do that in just a second, but we've got to go ahead and attach the one that is already ready. So again, I'm just going to thread on my crimp bead first. Okay. And then 20, 21, somewhere around there of these little crimp beads. Yeah, I always crack the seed beads. I try not to, but it just happens. I need to trim the end of my bead stringing wire. All right. Whoops. And there's 10. Okay, so there are our seed beads. I need to loop through here with this end that's already finished. Take the end of our bead stringing wire, go through our crimp, and then again I want to go through about 2 of these beads for no other reason than it just helps to not have to be pulling this wire right up here in such a tiny little space. Okay, pull everything up nice and snug. Okay, now very carefully come in again with your crimper tool. Joan has the materials list pinned right here in the comments. But yeah, everywhere, I cracked one. Did you hear it? It went crunch. Everywhere the event is posted, under the about information for the event, there is a materials list. So I try to post those in advance for you guys, for anybody who wants to do this ahead of time. And then for those of you who want to get the materials later, you've got a materials list. I don't like that crunching sound. All right, I'm going to trim this off. Okay. And I didn't trim that quite close enough. Oh, I got it. That's good. Okay, so one end is ready. One end is finished, just to kind of save us some time. But now we need to do the other end, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So we can move all of this out of the way for now. Okay. Move this strand of these tiny, tiny, evil seed beads. And we're going to get our B-Lon out. You're going to need about 24 inches of the B-Lon. So I have way more than 24 inches, but really that's all you're going to need. Okay. Any of your nylon cords are going to work for this. So if you've got C-Lon or S-Lon or Super C-Lon, you can use those. I like the B-Lon. It has this kind of, you see how it grips to itself? It kind of has this coating on it that some of the other ones like the S-Lon and the C-Lon don't have. The B-Lon has this kind of grippy coating, so your knots stay really, really tight. And it doesn't unravel on you, which is cool too. So, okay, so now I'm going to bring in the tying station, and I'm going to show you why it is so cool that the tying station is adjustable, right? Because we normally, let me lift you guys up just a little bit. We normally work with the tying station in like long sections because we're working on bracelets. So we're always like working in this kind of 8-inch area of space. But for today, we need to keep it up way up here. And so it's really cool that you can make your workspace that short, right? Because that's what we need. We only need about 2 inches of workspace here. And so I'll show you how we will attach that. It just makes things a lot easier. If you don't have a tying station to do this, number one, I recommend grabbing one because they're fantastic. I use mine for everything. But number two, you can use painter's tape on your surface. Just be careful with the painter's tape and your faux suede lace. Sometimes it tends to, make it fuzzy when you take even the painter's tape off of it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take the end of my lace and take it through our little component here, and I want to fold over, and I want my fold to be a little over 2 inches. So I'm just kind of measuring that out. Okay, now I'm just going to hold on to that. I'm going to place our component over the peg. Okay, and then I'm going to put all of this back on just to hold all of this in place. Whoops. Oh, Shelly's never heard of a tying station. Shelly, the tying station is so fabulous. It's so good for friendship bracelets, wrap bracelets, projects like this where you need to secure two ends, but you still need to get underneath there with your fingers. Tying station is fantastic. Plus, it has a ruler on the edge, which makes it really, really handy too. All right, so now we're going to be working in this tiny little space. I'm going to slide the end up, and I'm just going to slide the two ends of the suede lace underneath here. You can take this all the way off if you need to, but just make sure that they're laying on top of each other. Okay, and then secure that down. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, now I have both ends pulled nice and, well, maybe, hold on just a second. You definitely want to be sure that they're laying one on top of the other and not side by side. That was the problem I was having there. Okay, screw the wing nut down, keep it nice and tight. Now, I can get my fingers underneath here. I don't have to worry that that short end is going to slip up and, you know, get in my way. So the tying station, really, really handy. We are working in a very, very small space here. So it can be kind of cumbersome with these two ends, but I would rather struggle against the two ends than to struggle with that short piece trying to flop up and the measurement coming undone as I'm trying to secure my knots, okay? All right, so I've got my B-Lon. All you need is about 24 inches. I'm going to take it underneath and take my two ends together and find the center. Okay, underneath those two pieces of this faux suede lace. Now I'm just going to create a square knot, and the first one is always the most difficult to show you guys, but after I get the first one secure, it is a lot easier to kind of walk through it. So I'm going to take my right-handed cord. I want to create a little P shape over the top of the two pieces of our leather here. Okay, now I want to take the left-handed cord, make sure that it is going across the top of that right cord that's coming across, and then it needs to go underneath everything and up through that P shape that we made over here on the right-handed side, and then pull. Okay, so that's step one. Square knots happen in two steps. That's the first step. Now the second step is the same thing, just on the opposite side. So we're making the P shape with our left-handed cord going across the top of the leather, taking the right-handed cord, making sure that it just goes across the top of this one that's coming out this way, right? Then it needs to go underneath and up through the P shape, and then pull. And that's your square knot. So the square knot has to happen in two steps. Okay, you have to do the right and the left. Otherwise, you've only got half of it and it creates a spiral. And I don't want a spiral for this. I want a nice flat square knot. Okay, so we've got one. We're going to do about 12 more. And that means we're going to make 24 moves here. So again, P shape, across the center, left-handed side is going underneath and up through, and pull. Same thing, just on the left this time. So the P shape, and then the right hand goes underneath and up through. And again, because we're working in a small space here, it's really easy to kind of get your cords tangled. So just go slow with it. Don't get super frustrated. Let me move you guys down so that you're more kind of on top of it here. Okay. Hopefully you can see a little bit better now. Okay. All right. So the right-handed side, making that P shape, going across the top of our center cords. our left-handed cord, just kind of crossing over that one, and then it goes behind everything and up through the P shape. Okay, and then pull. Left side, same thing. And pull. Okay, and you can see how that's going to come together. It's going to make this really cool pattern over the tops of your suede. It's going to hold those two ends together. You don't have to use any extra hardware or anything like that. And you've got a nice kind of bit of mixed materials here, which is also in the trends for spring and summer. And I think that's where a lot of the pearls mixed with bright pops of colorful, kind of playful beads, that same kind of notion is mixing your materials. So mixing your crystals and your nylon cords with your bead stringing wire and with your crystal and your pearls, just really kind of mixing more materials together, and materials that don't necessarily go together. That is really, really hot, particularly in the do-it-yourself part of the jewelry industry. I know that for the Michaels classes that I'm going to be doing, some of the prompts, we get prompts to tell us what the focus should be. The March, is it March? No, it's April. The April focus is mixed materials, because that's when that trend is really going to kind of take off. I like it better than the wire too. I'm a huge fan of wire, no matter what, of course. But when we start talking about summer and spring jewelry, lightweight stuff I really, really like. So using the B-Lon here instead of wire wrapping just gives this kind of a lighter feel to it. And I don't necessarily mean weight-wise, I just mean visually. It doesn't feel quite as heavy to the eye if you use your soft cords in place of your wires. Now, that's not to say that you can't use your wires all spring and summer, because you absolutely can, and we definitely are going to. But it's just a nice little alternative, right? It just kind of gives it more of like a, I don't know, it definitely gives it a little bit of a boho feel to it, for sure. I just feel like with spring and summertime jewelry, visual and actual weight are important. I don't like to wear super heavy pieces because of the heat, but then visually I don't like to have super heavy pieces either. But I still got to have things like my crystals and all of that. So, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've gotten to 7. Need a few more of these. So I'm just going to keep going. I know I walked through the first few pretty slow, but I'm going to pick up the pace here a little bit so I can show you how to finish this off. Yes, I agree, Kelly. Sensory friendly and lightweight. I love fibers in jewelry. That's why I'm so obsessed with the looms. The fiber looms and just the jewel loom in general, because you have the option of using so many different fibers and combining them into not only your jewelry, but into your art as well. I really, really have a soft spot for fiber. And I come by it pretty honestly. My grandfather owned a textiles testing facility. So when I was growing up, he had a laboratory where they tested the fibers that hold your blue jeans together, right? They would take raw cotton and they would do all of the testing on the raw cotton, and then they would spin it into fibers on these big spinning frames out in one of the big back rooms, and the spinning frames would take up like the entire room. They were these huge machines, and then they would wind them onto these really cool cones, and then they would ship them off to all of the manufacturers that would create clothing or fabric out of them. And he also was very much obsessed with looming. And when he worked for the University of Tennessee for several years, he loomed some fabric napkins for my grandmother in red and white, and my mom still has them. So I guess the point of this story is that I've got fiber and, you know, and looming and stuff. I've got that in my blood. Like it's in my DNA. All right, so I'm going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to do 2 more. Donna, it's interesting to me now. When I was a kid, it wasn't super interesting to me because I would have to go to the lab. That's what we called it, the lab. And I would have to go to the lab, you know, during summer because my mom would help out there in the summertime. And, you know, it wasn't super fun when you were a kid. And I really didn't understand a whole lot of it. I just knew that, like, there were big piles of raw cotton and you could make the most amazing, like, piles to jump in. And I did not really fully understand any of what it was that he did until I was much older. See, now you can see I'm kind of struggling here because I'm running out of space. You know, I'm working in just like my tiniest area here, so it's a challenge to get your fingers underneath there, but it's doable. And at this point, your leather, you can actually take it off to get these last couple of knots in here. I don't think that it's going to come undone by any means. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've got 13. That's my lucky number. So I'm going to stop there with 13. And I'm going to go ahead and take this off of the tying station. Okay. It was an interesting place. There were these great big machines that hung from the ceiling that were on a timer, and every once in a while they would spray. You know how there's in the produce department of the grocery store, there's those misters, and like it'll flash the lights and thunder like a thunderstorm to warn you that you're about to get wet if you're picking your produce at the grocery store, because it sprays out mist to keep all of the produce wet. That's the way it was with the cotton. So in the rooms where all of the testing equipment was and where all of the raw cotton was, there would be those big machines in the ceiling, and they would go off on a timer and they would spray. And so there was like this mist over the entire room to keep the cotton from drying out. It was an interesting place. That's for sure. Okay, so I've finished all of my knots, but I need to tie off my ends. So I'm just going to come to what I'm going to consider the back, and I'm going to tie an overhanded knot. Bring that down. I want that to sit really, really close to the back. And then I'm going to do another overhanded knot and bring it down really, really close as well. Okay, now I want to come in with my Hypo Cement. I'm actually going to trim these a little bit now, but I will trim them very, very short after the Hypo Cement dries. Let me grab my glue here. Where did it go? I want to take the Hypo Cement and get right into that knot. It doesn't take a lot, but we want to trim this off as close to the knot as possible. So I want to be sure that I do add glue here so that the knot doesn't come undone even after the glue dries. And you can always come back in a second time if you want to. Okay. Now, my ends here, you can see one of the pieces of the suede is sticking out a little bit further. So I'm going to come in and trim that off just so that they match. If you want to, you can trim these down all the way up next to the last knot that you made and not have any sticking out. That part is just really kind of up to you. But it's a cool way to finish off instead of using your metals. You don't have to have any hardware for that at all. And we've got this really cool, very long necklace. And again, I'll trim these off here in just a little bit after that glue sets up. But you've got an over the head necklace that you can just throw on with your neck mess, right? You can layer on a bunch of short necklaces and then throw this over the top, and you've got like just enough sparkle. It's the sparkle that will take you like into dinner, but can totally be worn during the day too, right? I mean, I wear my sparkle all day long, so. I'm gonna flip you guys around real quick.
We'll do the little wiggle.
All right, let me know. Let me know if the audio is okay. You're so welcome. I'm glad you guys like this project. I think it's really pretty. This is actually another one of those guinea pig designs. This is not one of the classes that I'm going to be teaching necessarily at Michael's, but it is one of the ones that I submitted for some of the marketing campaigns. So I thought it was definitely worthy of showing you guys. So this is the short. I've definitely got, see, I have all of that bundled back here just so that you can see the hanging part of this. But it definitely is a really, really long necklace. And, you know, you can shorten it up anytime you want to. What's my lip color? Shoot, what is it called? I'll have to look. I used to know, like right off the top of my head. I used to wear one that was called Wild Clover. This one's different. I'll have to look. I'll get back to you on that. So there you go. That's the long, long necklace. It's pretty. It's fun. It's lightweight. It's animal friendly, but you still get that kind of rugged edge with the faux suede lace. If I could ever say that correctly, it would be, you know, it would be a miracle if I could say that the way it's supposed to be said. All right, so let's just get our little goodbyes out of the way. I do have a couple of things just to mention one more time, just to hit on right before we go. Do not forget the tips that I gave you at the beginning. I know that a lot of times people skip through the chit chat when you're watching in replay, and I understand that. But I really am going to try as we go forward on my new adventure for 2021 to give you guys every now and then some good business information. I don't know if you guys know this or not. I know I posted it a while ago, but I have a business coach. Her name is Jessie Wild. She's absolutely phenomenal. And I meet with her once a week. And the information that she gives me, I want to share some of it with you guys. Obviously, I don't want to give away all my secrets because she certainly, you know, she certainly deserves her pay. But that information that she gives me mixed in with information that I have just learned along the way, I feel like it's important to share with you guys to kind of help you to avoid some of the pitfalls that I was a part of, you know, information that I wish that somebody had given me. So I hope that you guys will find the information that I give you valuable. Definitely pass it along to your friends. Anybody who is starting their own business or who has been in the business and is kind of struggling, those little tips are always valuable to have. So something else, I wanted to mention this one before. I'll mention it here and I'll mention it again another day, but I don't do custom jewelry anymore. I used to. And when I did custom jewelry, I did a lot of bridal jewelry. And for those of you who've done custom jewelry before, if you've ever worked with brides, you know where I'm coming from. For those of you who are thinking about putting that as part of your repertoire, part of what you do, right? Words are hard. Keep in mind that you're putting yourself in a position that it's not a fun place to be. I'm just going to be straight up, completely honest with you. Custom design work is difficult. Brides are known as bridezillas for a reason. And so you really have to kind of mentally prepare for that. We'll talk more about that on another day, because I feel like that is, you know, that's definitely something that needs to be discussed. Just know that if you're gonna put yourself in that position and you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me, because I've been there and done that. I don't do it anymore. I don't do custom designs. A lot of times, or not a lot of times, but I have a rule for myself that if you buy a design from me, I won't change it. I mean, like if there's something wrong with it and it's broken, obviously I will fix it for you. But once I design something, I don't change the design later. So if somebody comes to me and they're like, I just bought this from your shop, can you do this? I will pay you extra if you will do this to make it this way. I don't do that. I do not change a design for anybody. So you get what you pay for, in other words. It's just those little things, that little tidbit of information that, like, I wish somebody had told me that ahead of time. It would have saved me so much trouble and so much heartache. So I hope that I can pass on those little gems of information to you guys, and I hope that you find them helpful. Okay, so that's all I needed to say about that. Please be sure to subscribe to the email list if you haven't already. Sign up for the Sara Ellis Designs community if you are not part of our Facebook group, and be part of the live wires. I've got new things going. I got a little wiggle with that. Did you see? I've got some more fun things in store. I also have a poll question coming up about maybe some possible ventures that I'm going to go on to see if you guys are interested in. So please be a part of the community, because that's where those questions are going to be posted. Okay. And I definitely want your feedback on those. All right, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. I hope to see some of you all tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time, over on the Michaels website for my virtual class there. Otherwise, you guys can catch me right here on Thursday at 1 p.m. We've got another fun project. We're taking a project from the past and bringing it back to life. We're going to be using some more of the B-Lon. So if you're interested in that, go check that out over on the Beadalon website. Grab some, because it's good stuff to have on hand. Okay. All right, guys, I will see you later. Bye.